Hello, Coach Dat here with another chess tutorial. Today we are going to talk about another double attack called the fork. The reason why it's called a fork is because you're taking one single piece and attacking two pieces at the same time. And we say that it's a fork because think of it as a pitchfork. When you stab something with a pitchfork, you're stabbing multiple points at different directions. So here in chess, in this particular example, I'm going to show you a simple fork that you can use in your chess games. Here, black is to move, and black can win this rook with a single move. As we learned previously, double attacks are really powerful because your opponent can only respond by moving as one single piece. You can't defend both pieces by making two moves at the same time. That's called cheating. So in this example, what black is going to do is black is going to move his knight to c4, creating a nice fork right here. So therefore, this knight is attacking the king, is putting the king in check, but is also attacking another piece. It's attacking the rook over here on e3. The rook cannot move because the king is in check and the white has to respond to this danger, to this particular attack. So white will just simply get out of check, and by moving to b3, and then black's next move is going to be knight captures e3. You saw that? As we can see here that this particular fork is very powerful because number one, it's a check. So white has to respond and the opponent has to respond to this danger. And then once they respond, they lose their piece right here in the middle of the board. And here we're going to go over a couple of examples of forks that you'll see in your game, and hopefully we can practice and start recognizing the types of forks that you'll see in the game. We're going to go over a series of knight forks. Knights are really great in a game. They're the easiest piece to create forks with because they are an opponent's nightmare. Some opponents fear the knight because of how it can jump around on the board and the way that it just moves with that extra L. If you don't have good night vision, then you can be susceptible to a knight fork and you will lose a lot to an opponent who can utilize a knight fork right here. So for these upcoming examples, I invite you to solve these tactics puzzles alongside with me. Anytime you see this number right here on the corner, you'll be able to pause the video and solve it. Take the time to solve it. Or you can even set up your own chessboard at home while watching this video and be able to work alongside with me and move the pieces as you go. But the most important thing is that you start recognizing these knight forks on the board. In this particular example, we have white to move. Do you see the correct answer? If you said knight to c7, check, that is the correct move. Remember, black is now in check over here by the knight. And this knight is also attacking this rook over here on a8. A double attack puts the opponent in a position where they must move one of these pieces. But in this example, black has to immediately respond with the king. It has to get its king out of check because you cannot leave your king in check. So therefore, the king will most likely try to come over here to attack the knight. But hey, white already has its plans up in its sleeves to take this rook right here and winning materials on the board. As you can see, this rook is 5 points. Easy 5 points with this rook. All right, we have another knight fork example right here. Can you find the answer? If you said, again, knight to c7, this particular example is a very extreme example for a knight fork. The knight is, number one, checking the king, and black has to do something in response to this knight, but it's also attacking this queen, attacking both the rooks right here, and there's nothing that black can do to capture this knight in order to get out of check. As you can see, doesn't matter where the king will go, most likely the knight will attack the queen and win a lot of material in this possession. Any knight fork that involves a king and a queen is called a royal fork. In this example, we have white to move. Are you able to find the answer here? If you said bishop captures c6, then you are correct. What this does is you both have a fork with a bishop attacking the king, checking the king, making sure that the king has to respond to this attack and check. And therefore, this knight is also being attacked by this bishop at the same time. So forks can also be created with other pieces on the board and not just the knights. As you can see here, we're going to have to move out of check of this king, and then this white bishop will capture this black knight right here. But as white, why couldn't we just use this knight to create this fork with this black knight on e4 and b1? It's because simply black can just counter back by capturing that knight, and it doesn't really create a forceful move that you will like in this game. If you are looking at this position on the board, then you can even attempt to try to do this as well, but you're going to get the same result as the previous move, where this black knight will simply just capture this knight to get out of fork as well. Are you able to recognize the fork tactic in this particular example? Here we have white to move. If you said rook to b7 check, then you are correct. Black again has to respond to white's checking piece. Therefore, there's no other piece that can capture this rook right here. So black will probably attempt to try to capture it, but white will simply just capture this knight, winning this 3-point minor piece on the board with a fork tactic. Here we have white to move. Can you find another fork tactic in this particular example? If you said queen captures e6 check, then you are correct. Here we have the queen checking the king, also attacking both these rooks and attacking this bishop right here. If the king decides to go to d8 to get out of check, there are a lot of problems that black is going to see right here. The queen will then capture this rook over here on g8 because that's the first fork that it's created. And again, attacking this king. And then therefore this king will go up here to get out of check. And then queen will be able to come over here and attack this knight, therefore winning a total of 8 points in the game. Now, instead of the king moving to d8, what if the king have moved to f8 to get out of check? Well, the queen will then capture this rook over here on c8. We'll put that to the side. Again, it's creating another check. And now the king is going to get out of check right here. It doesn't matter which square it decides to go on, because then the queen can then create another check on the king. And once the king decides to get out of check, then this bishop is going to be taken right here. So therefore winning another 8 points right here. As you can see, there are a lot of different types of fork tactics that the queen can create. Since the queen can move like the bishop and the rook, it can create a lot of different fork combinations on the chessboard, as long as you're able to recognize it and see it for any future games. Here we have an example where black is currently checking the white king, so therefore white has to respond to this danger right here. In this position, white can create a fork. Can you see the best move for white right now? If you said king to b3, that is the correct answer, because the king, anything one space away from the king can attack it. So by the king moving here, the king is number one attacking this knight, and number two attacking this rook. It doesn't matter what black is going to do. Most likely black will try to save its own rook by retreating back or trying to move into a different position right here. But white will simply capture this knight in order to gain 3 points on the board. As you can see, these are all the different type of fork tactics that you can create on the board that is not just limited just to the knight, but it also can go on to the bishop, the rook, the queen, and even the king. And later on, we will talk about pawns that can create double attacks as well. But in this example, we'll just stick to the major and minor pieces on the chessboard. Thank you very much for watching this chess tutorial. If you do like what you see, please feel free to subscribe and like below. We look forward to seeing you at the next chess tutorial.